Good morning everyone. Major global news update end of July 31, 2026. I have reviewed the latest reporting available from the international news sources. The most important developing stories are concentrated around the Middle East conflict, Gaza negotiations, Ukraine, Japan's earthquake, cybersecurity threats, and financial market risks. And here are the 7 major stories happening by the end of the month July. 1. Hamas and Israel reportedly reach draft Gaza disarmament framework. 2. Iran claims retaliatory attacks on U.S. targets in Kuwait. 3. Japan earthquake death toll rises as rescue operations continue. 4. Russian missile crash in Poland raises NATO security concerns. 5. Cyberattacks increasingly target U.S. water systems. 6. U.S. borrowing costs rise as inflation and war risks pressure markets. 7. Israel destroys reported Hezbollah tunnels near historic Lebanese site. And the end. Main the development to watch. 1. Hamas and Israel reportedly reach draft Gaza disarmament framework. A potentially significant diplomatic development has emerged in the Gaza conflict. Under the reported framework, Hamas and other Palestinian factions would surrender their weapons in phases. The process would be coordinated with the withdrawal of Israeli troops and the transfer of administrative responsibilities to an interim Palestinian governing body. U.S. President Donald Trump announced that an agreement had been reached concerning the disarmament of Hamas and a gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip. However, important disagreements remain. Hamas officials say implementation depends on Israel fulfilling its commitments, including ending military operations and withdrawing its forces. Israel has reportedly insisted that disarmament must occur before a complete withdrawal. The agreement therefore represents an important diplomatic opening, but it should not yet be considered a finalized peace settlement. Negotiations over implementation, verification, and security guarantees remain crucial. Why it matters. A successful agreement could reduce violence in Gaza and lower regional tensions. Failure could lead to renewed fighting and further instability across the Middle East. Two. Iran claims retaliatory attacks on U.S. targets in Kuwait. U.S.-Iran conflict escalation. Regional tensions remain extremely high after Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed that it had launched retaliatory attacks against U.S.-related targets in Kuwait. The reported strikes followed a new round of U.S. attacks on Iranian military locations, including targets on Iran's Qeshm Island and in the country's southwest. Iranian media reported civilian casualties during the U.S. strikes, while attacks and military alerts have also been reported around American bases and strategic facilities elsewhere in the Gulf. The confrontation is increasing security concerns across Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, and the wider Gulf region. It is also raising fears that additional countries and military installations could become involved. Why it matters. Further escalation could threaten oil production, regional air travel, shipping routes, and investor confidence. Energy prices may remain volatile while the conflict continues. Three. Japan earthquake death toll rises as rescue operations continue. Japan earthquake update. The death toll from the powerful earthquake that struck southwestern Japan has risen to at least 34, according to local authorities. The magnitude 7.1 earthquake caused serious damage in Kumamoto Prefecture, including damage to buildings and commercial facilities. Several people were also reported to be seriously injured. Emergency teams are continuing search and rescue operations while authorities assess structural damage, transportation disruption, and the risk of further aftershocks. Residents in affected areas are being advised to remain alert and follow official evacuation and safety instructions. Why it matters. Japan has strong earthquake-resistant standards, but a major disaster can still disrupt transportation, manufacturing, supply chains, and local economic activity. 4. Russian missile crash in Poland raises NATO security concerns. European security update. NATO has reaffirmed its commitment to defend Allied territory after a Russian missile reportedly entered Polish airspace and crashed in eastern Poland. The missile created a large crater in a rural area, although no casualties were reported. Polish authorities said the weapon appeared similar to missiles used during recent Russian attacks against Ukraine. Polish and Allied aircraft were deployed as the incident unfolded. Officials are investigating whether the missile entered Poland accidentally or because of a navigation or technical failure. Poland's government said there was no immediate evidence that the country had been deliberately targeted. Nevertheless, the incident has renewed calls for stronger Ukrainian air defenses and closer NATO monitoring along its eastern border. Why it matters. Any Russian weapon entering NATO territory creates a serious risk of miscalculation and could increase military tensions between Russia and the alliance. Five, cyberattacks increasingly target U.S. water systems. Global cybersecurity alert. U.S. cybersecurity authorities are warning that hackers are increasingly targeting public water systems and other essential infrastructure. More than 30 community water systems in Minnesota were reportedly targeted during a coordinated cyberattack on July 26 and 27. Water facilities can be particularly vulnerable because some local operators use older technology, limited cybersecurity resources, and remotely accessible industrial control systems. Authorities are urging infrastructure operators to strengthen passwords, restrict remote access, install security updates, and improve monitoring for suspicious activity. Why it matters. Cyberattacks on water, electricity, transportation, or healthcare systems can create direct risks to public safety, not only financial or data security losses. Six, U.S. borrowing costs rise as inflation and war risks pressure markets. Global financial market update. Long-term U.S. government borrowing costs have risen sharply following the Federal Reserve's decision to keep interest rates unchanged. The yield on the 30-year U.S. Treasury reportedly reached approximately 5.23%, its highest level since 2007, as investors reacted to persistent inflation concerns, higher energy prices, and growing geopolitical uncertainty. Renewed military confrontation involving the United States and Iran has added pressure to oil prices. More expensive fuel could make it harder for inflation to return to the Federal Reserve's target. Technology shares and other risk-sensitive assets are also facing pressure as investors examine high corporate spending on artificial intelligence and data center infrastructure. Why it matters. Higher government bond yields can increase borrowing costs for households and businesses while placing pressure on stocks, cryptocurrencies, and property markets. Seven, Israel destroys reported Hezbollah tunnels near historic Lebanese site. Lebanon security update. Israeli forces carried out a series of explosions near the UNESCO-listed Beaufort Castle in southern Lebanon. Israel said the operation destroyed tunnels allegedly used by Hezbollah. Lebanese state media reported that the detonations occurred near the historic site overnight. The operation comes as tensions remain elevated between Israel and Hezbollah, with continuing concerns about military activity, cross-border attacks, and damage to civilian and cultural locations. Why it matters. Further confrontation in southern Lebanon could expand the regional conflict and place additional pressure on civilians, infrastructure, and cultural heritage sites. Main development to watch. The U.S.-Iran confrontation and the proposed Gaza disarmament framework are currently the most market-sensitive developments. Any disruption affecting the Strait of Hormuz, Gulf energy facilities, or regional shipping could push oil, transportation, and insurance costs higher at the same time. Verified progress in the Gaza negotiations could reduce regional risk and improve market sentiment. These stories are developing rapidly. Military claims, casualty figures, and diplomatic conditions may change as governments release additional information. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and share your thoughts with us. Your support and feedback are greatly appreciated. On behalf of our team, we wish you a wonderful day filled with love, happiness, success, and prosperity.